Hey all, Bree from the No Guilt Mom podcast, and I have got a gift for you this holiday season. If you love the No Guilt Mom podcast, and I mean love the No Guilt Mom podcast, then tell us about it. Leave us a review, and you can be entered to win a No Guilt Mom gift card. All you have to do is leave a review, take a screenshot, and then simply go to noguiltmom.com/review to enter our giveaway for a free No Guilt Mom gift card, simply for telling us what you think about the podcast. It is amazing. But don't delay. Get right on this, as we're going to be giving away that No Guilt Mom gift card on December 21st. So get right on over and visit noguiltmom.com/review.
Hello, and welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I'm your host, Joanne Crone, and I'm joined by my fantastically amazing co-host, Bree Tucker.
Well, hello, everybody.
We have a great conversation for everybody today.
Oh, it was phenomenal.
And I have to say, getting on with this author, her name is Shannon Brescher Shea, and she writes about how parents can encourage their kids to be more sustainable and environmentally friendly. But she goes deeper than that, which I really like.
She does. I loved how she talked about how being a green parent isn't necessarily something that is being a good parent, that you can do both. You can do both and still succeed. And she had so many amazing ideas. She makes something that seems so big seem so achievable.
Yeah, and her whole mission is about raising kind and engaged and resilient kids. And it really goes in with the No Guilt Mom mission of creating these independent, self-sufficient kids who learn to do stuff on their own and are responsible. And, she takes it one step further in that they also care about the environment and the communities around them.
Right. And she had really good examples. One of the stories she tells is about how they went hiking. And how one of
her
kids
son saved her life. So you have to listen to that. This is Shannon Brescher Shea. She's the author of the environmental parenting advice book, Growing Sustainable Together, Practical Resources to Raise Kind, Engaged, Resilient Children. And through her book and blog, We'll Eat You Up, We Love You So, she offers practical advice on green living while not shying away from utter failures, which I really enjoy reading about other people's utter failures because I don't feel alone.
Yeah, exactly. Learning through mistakes, people. Learning through mistakes.
Shannon lives in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. with her family, and I hope you enjoy our conversation with her. This episode is supported by the DOT planning system, which is a phenomenal planning system for your middle schooler that not only gives them a planner, but teaches them exactly how to use it.
Wow, something that's going to help my child be accountable for their homework and actually teach them life skills such as time management and planning?
Exactly. I mean, I've mentioned it on this podcast before, but the reason I created DOT was we were sitting in the middle school gym at 6th grade parent orientation, and the principal is here telling parents what you can do to get your child ready for middle school. And these lists of things he's listing, he's like, teach them how to plan for long-term assignments, tell them how they can balance extracurricular activities with their schoolwork, all these things. And there was really no set way to teach them how to do it. And so that's what DOT is. DOT is the entire system that leads kids through how to think through long-term assignments, how to balance and plan their time after school so that they get everything done.
So on those days where, I don't know, maybe you have an after-school activity like dance or soccer that takes several hours, one or more than one night a week, it helps your child kind of look at things, right? And be able to figure out that, maybe I shouldn't leave all my homework to Thursday night when I have practice that night.
Yes, it prevents the inevitable crying mess of leaving everything until the last minute, which I feel like I as a mom feel sometimes as well. I'm like,
oh yeah.
And seeing your kid being so overwhelmed, it's painful. And
it is.
That is what DOT seeks to fix.
Well, and the other thing I love about it too is that it doesn't necessarily come from you as the parent.
No.
There are so many times I have tried to give what I felt was really great advice and support and instruction to my children with a problem they were having. And they just didn't want to hear any of it because it was coming from me. And they felt like for whatever reason, I wasn't valid to, or I wasn't good enough to give advice on the topic. So when it comes from somebody else like you, right?
Yeah. I get it too. It's the teacher effect. I use my kids' teachers as well.
Yep.
To get them to do stuff. So that is the DOT student planning system. You can find out more about it and get it for your child in the link that we have in the show notes. You want mom life to be easier. That's our goal too. Our mission is to raise more self-sufficient and independent kids, and we're going to have fun doing it. We're going to help you delegate and step back. Each episode will tackle strategies for positive discipline, making our kids more responsible and making our lives better in the process. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom Podcast. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom Podcast, Shannon. We are so happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And we've been talking a lot about like the green living and being sustainable. And so let's dive in. First, I want to know like what brought you to really wanting to focus on green living and sustainability and teaching that to kids?
Well, I've been really passionate about the environment since I was a little kid myself. When I was in about the summer after third grade, I went to Homosassa Springs State Park in Florida with my parents and learned about the manatees and saw them in person. You can actually see them up like face to face because there's a place you can go under the water. It's a big cube, like a big plexiglass cube.
I want to go there now.
Yeah, it's really cool. Unfortunately, it's not in great shape, as great shape as it was when I was 10, because, state funding, Florida. But you can go down and you actually can see them very up close. And so I absolutely fell in love with them. And then the same day, I found out they were endangered. And so I got really excited in the way that only like a 9 or 10-year-old can, and was like, we're going to save the manatees, and convinced my class to adopt a manatee. And it's really neat because you actually adopt an individual manatee because there's individual manatees that live in the park. So we could say, oh, we helped this manatee.
That's cool.
Which is really neat. And you get a photo of that manatee and their name.
It's amazing because when reading your book, like I so identified with the whole becoming very passionate about the environment when I was a kid. I think I actually read the same book you did, the 100 Things Kids Can Do to Say, like I had it dog-eared. And I remember being very concerned about global warming at the time. And that was the 90s.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do everything. And that's when I started the ecology club at my like very, very small school.
Yeah.
But I could so identify with having like that childhood passion. Your passion has stayed with you though into your adult life. So tell us about the book you just wrote for parents and living the green life.
Absolutely. It's called Growing Sustainable Together, Practical Resources for Raising Kind, Engaged, Resilient Children. And I wanted to write it because I've always had this deep passion for the environment. It's played out in my personal life and my professional life. And I wanted to pass those things on to my children. And it's really about how you can pass not only these kind of green living values and environmental sustainability, but combine that with so many things that modern parents want to teach their children. How to be kind, how to be connected to your community and build those relationships with your neighbors that so many people have lost in recent decades, how to be responsible and take on things like household chores. And it turns out there's so much that parents, kids, and families all together can learn and embrace when it comes to these environmental activities.
I love that you are connecting the environmental activities with the skills that we want to nurture in our kids, like the self-sufficiency and the doing chores and the becoming responsible. And you have 2 kids of your own.
I do.
A 7 and a 4-year-old. And how are you teaching them these things of self-sufficiency and responsibility while taking care of the environment? Like, how does that look in your house?
Yeah. So one of the big ways is our garden. And we grow vegetables. This year in particular, we don't grow them very well because the deer ate all our tomato plants almost continuously. But it was demonstrating resilience to them that, even though there's a problem, we're going to keep trying to do it and we're going to problem solve.
That's right. So like you wouldn't go and like buy another plant and plant it in just so the kids wouldn't feel disappointment.
Exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
I read that in books about like goldfish that die when the parents go and replace
I
it,
never
'cause it doesn't teach
understood that.
resilience. I don't get it. It doesn't teach it.
Right. Yeah. My kids know if you don't water the plants, they die.
Yeah.
If you step on the plants, they die.
Life is full of disappointment. You need to face it and then come up with something new and find the positive in it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Or problem solve so it doesn't happen again.
Yeah. So how did you guys problem solve that?
At first, we were kind of like, oh, well, that's okay. And then they did it again and again.
Of course.
And then we got some deer spray and we sprayed them. And then we're actually putting in a new fence. So.
Okay. There you go. And they got to learn about that.
Yeah, exactly. And so they're really involved in the garden. They love helping me plant stuff. I sometimes recruit them into weeding. They like just playing in the dirt, and if I can get them to play in the dirt and pull some stuff up while they're doing it, even better. They also are involved in what I call like kind of green chores, which is like composting. They come and sometimes they'll help me rip up the newspaper to put in the composter. Others are where it's a work in progress, of course, like turning off the lights when you leave the room or things like that. It requires a lot of repetition and reminding them. When they were little, I had that be their job, and that worked for a while. I think it's worn off a little, but it's a really great way to get little kids feeling empowered, like they have something important to do and they have a responsibility. And it teaches these individual actions, and talking about how they affect other people is a great way to introduce the idea that the things we do are not just about us. They're about your family, about the larger world, about your community, and they have these ripple effects. When we were biking to the pool, and I think I had mentioned at some point, like, oh yeah, we try to bike and walk places and take the bus because it produces less pollution than the car. And we're biking and we're stopped at a stoplight. My son's like, we're not producing any pollution. I'm like, you're right. I'm glad to hear you were paying attention.
I think that's
out of nowhere.
I think that's really amazing because you bring up a good point. Like in the society that we're in now, I think a lot of us, it's very easy to get sucked into that, how my life is just my life and it's my business and it's my choice. But like you just said, every choice that we do make, it does have a ripple effect on others.
Because I feel like we're so excluded from other people. Like,
society, the way we are now,
it's not just the pandemic either. It's before because we're sheltered in like these cars going from place to place, and we never get the chance to really interact with other people.
Mm-hmm.
We're hitting that time of year where my brain gets so overloaded in December that I look for anything to make life easier. And I have to say, Brie, that Green Chef is one of those services.
Yes, Green Chef is there to take away the dreaded, oh my goodness, what are we going to eat for dinner tonight? You can eat clean all holiday long with over 80 weekly meal options each week, featuring things like quick and easy, protein-packed, calorie-smart, or my personal favorite, the keto options.
And you don't have to lose track of healthy eating habits during the holidays because every Green Chef customer gets a free session with one of their registered dietitians who can walk you through how to make clean eating work for you, which is very cool.
And I have to say that I have been loving their recipes lately. They put things together I have never thought of. This week, we're trying the lemon basil caper pork with sauteed cauliflower, bell peppers, almonds, and feta cheese, my favorite. Their recipes make it so easy to support my wellness goals without skipping on flavor.
For Green Chef's best deal of the year, get $250 off with code NGM250 at greenchef.com/NGM250. That's greenchef.com/NGM250. And don't forget to use that code NGM250 to get $250 off.
Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for eating well. Hey, Brie here, and I wanted to share one of my favorite gifts to give during the holiday season, a Storyworth book. It is the most amazing gift ever. Storyworth is an online service that lets you create a special and unique gift of someone's story. I've given Storyworth books to both of my parents, and it has been their favorite gift, hands down. And did I mention it is so easy? Storyworth emailed my parents questions every week that I handpicked from their massive list of questions that they have. All my parents parents had to do was open their email and answer them. That easy. I asked my dad questions like, did you have any rules that you set for yourself as a parent, which you immediately broke? And he did. I even asked both of my parents, are you more like your mom or your dad? And they shared a lot of really amazing qualities that I didn't know about my grandparents at the time. Then at the end of the year, Storyworth compiles all of their answers, puts them into this gorgeous book that covers everything. My parents love showing us their books, and I personally love getting a chance to read them. With Storyworth, I am giving those I love a thoughtful and personal gift from the heart that preserves their memories and stories for years to come. Go to storyworth.com/NGM and save $10 on your first purchase. That's storyworth.com/NGM to save $10 on your first purchase.
I remember in your book, you said about when riding the bike, you always see neighbors out and you get to say like hi to people. And that's something that I don't get to do. I do the wave when I go by them.
I think that's a good point. Because again, a lot of people talk about the garage door society, how like you pull into your a lot of the suburban neighborhoods, we pull into our garage and we shut our garage door. Like we may see our neighbor out there and you might give them the wave and then the garage door goes down.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it really is teaching them that skill that I feel like as a society, we don't do enough.
But I also feel like it's a hard thing to change because when we talk about biking, I would love to bike more. But the way everything is structured, it makes it very hard to bike. It makes it like, first, we're in Phoenix over here. It's like 120.
But yeah, you really think about that before you go out.
But like, how do you deal with that in a world that's really not built for the biking and not built for walking and based more on cars and transportation? How do you shift over?
Well, sometimes you do just have to make a little bit more effort and make time in your day to do that. For example, we live about a half mile from the grocery store, so we can bike or walk there, but a lot of times we do drive because carrying back a bunch of groceries. My husband's always worried, like, DC is very hot. So in the summer, he's like, the milk's going to go bad. But recognizing, okay, it's going to take a little more time, but then that's time that I spend with my kids, walking somewhere 20 minutes. You don't have to think about it as necessarily extra time, quote unquote, but time that you get to spend with your kids. And because everybody's always like, oh, I don't get to spend enough time with my kids, So if you think about it that way, okay, I got out, I walked for a mile, I didn't have to go to the gym.
Bonus.
And I got to spend time with my kids and I got somewhere. It also does open up those conversations about the roles we play in systems with kids, and in a very concrete way. I think it's very hard even for adults to understand sometimes, like, how does my role in a system contribute to the inequality or the systemic problems of it? And when you look and go, we can't walk anywhere because we don't have sidewalks, you understand it really fast. And it's a good way to talk to kids about that. Like, we would walk places, but our city has decided that's not a priority for them. We should write a letter or an email to our city council to ask them to build a sidewalk. So it's a really great way of, okay, you have this problem and you see, I can't do this because our society has decided it's not important. Well, how can we change that? Well, one way we can change that is through activism and through writing to our policymakers and having a kid know that they can talk to the person in charge and they'll listen to them, especially on the local level, is so empowering. And most of the time you'll get a response.
Yeah, you're totally right too, because we had a Girl Scout troop. Both of our daughters were in the Girl Scout troop, and we had the hardest time figuring out what we should advocate for. What we should do, because we didn't know the problems in our community. We didn't know the problems in our society. And you're right. Just by going out and deciding to take a walk to the grocery store or deciding to take a bike ride, you see all the problems that prevent you from kind of living that more fulfilled life with your community, with your neighborhood. Right. I love that. I want to go take a walk right now, but it's 1:15.
We got the heat advisory notice right before we started this podcast today.
Yeah.
But I wanted to rewind just slightly to one thing you said that's really resonating like a bell in my head. You were talking about just walking or riding your bike to the store and about having that extra time with your kids and about not extra time, having that time with your kids and how you're teaching them. And it resonated with me when we spoke with Laura as well. The importance of, feels like when we talk to so many parents, especially moms, we always feel like we're not doing enough when we're spending that time with them. But you just gave a brilliant example of how you got to spend that time with your children and you taught them something. taught them something that is passionate and important to you, and that's passionate and important to them. So that time was
That
so
time
well
is good. And I know that a little bit of pushback, because I'm already thinking the pushback from my own kids. If I say we're going to walk to the grocery store, there's going to be a barrage of complaints. Like it's going to be a lot of, why do we have to do this? It's so hot. And many parents, and myself included, would be like, okay, well, the pushback that they're giving to me, it almost makes me not want to do this anymore.
Right. Especially when they're older. Like, because we both have preteens.
We do.
And I feel like they're finding their voice so well at that age.
Yeah. Do you have any tips? Like, what do you do if your kids are just not into it that day?
Well, I wouldn't push it that day, maybe, but I think helping them understand what the benefits are to them is great at that age. And this is where responsibility comes in. And when you're talking about transportation in particular, you can say, we're going to walk to the grocery store or bike to the grocery store. And if you can show me that you're responsible enough to do this on your own, then you'll be able to do it and you won't need me to drive you anywhere.
Ooh, that is a good point. That freedom
of
like not having to hound me to take them somewhere.
That independence is so important. I talked to Carla Salter, who goes by the blog name Bus Check, and she took the bus all over the place as a kid in Seattle, where she still lives as a kid. And she said she was kind of a shy kid. She was a little quiet, but taking the bus was so empowering to her and having to, again, problem solve. Okay, where am I supposed to get off? Oh dear, I missed my stop. What do I do now? Can be really amazing for kids to learn. And it, for preteens and teenagers, if they either you don't have another car for them or they don't have their license yet, gives them the ability to go places. I kind of expect my son, who is now 7, but I expect him to be able to, say, walk to our town square a mile away by the time he's 10 or 11 and be able to go get ice cream or meet people with his friends. And he's walked it a million times, so he knows it. And he can cross the big street because he's done it, So there's also a sense of wayfinding, like literally being able to find your way around your city.
Exactly.
And there's some great studies on the fact that kids who bike and walk places actually know where they're going a lot better. They can draw maps.
Yeah, that's a really great example. Like, so to relate that to a little bit more of at least my particular environment. My daughter, she pays attention to where we're going. So like if she goes to a friend's house and that friend's parent has to bring them home, she can direct them to our house. My son, no idea. No idea. Sometimes I can't even get our full address spit out. I mean, it's very scary about that skill that you feel like they should have. So it teaches them.
It's like you do feel like they should have it, but at the same time, there is a sense of fear, like so much fear, because not many people around us are letting their kids go places by themselves. Like it is a very controlled kind of environment where parents feel like they need to drop their kids off at the door to make sure they're safe. So then when I would love to encourage my daughter, actually, we have a bus route that goes right up the street and it drops her off right in front of her dance studio. I would love to have her take the bus. But the thing that's stopping me, I am so scared. I'm scared of being labeled like an inconsiderate parent. Like I don't watch after my kid enough, or like I'm too lazy that I don't drive her to dance class, which is a whole other issue.
There's a lot of guilt and judgment.
It's a lot of guilt and judgment.
Yeah. And mine comes from a fear too, though. Mine comes from a fear of if my kids were ever to get lost, would they be able to find their way home? Yeah. And so again, teaching them the area where we're at, understanding I turn this street, I'm down that street, I'm off of these 2 major roads, that they would have a way to figure out how to get back there. Yeah. Like that's.
And it's even tougher for particularly, low income and Black families who are judged more harshly and tend to have the police called on, unfortunately, more often when they do those sorts of things. So that's why I think it's so important for us as much as we can to normalize these things, because, who else is going to do it to an extent? True. And that's why I like talking about what those values are, because people want the best for their kids, but they also want to protect them. But so often that protection comes at a cost.
It does.
The cost of independence, the cost of self-reliance. And then you end up with kids in college who don't know how to do anything.
Yeah. I've had stories of friends who have gone to college out of state and like called their parents 3 weeks in, and they totally dropped out of that school and moved closer to home because they couldn't handle it.
I saw that. Like I went to school, like I grew up in Missouri, and and I raised my hand when you said about like, aren't able to do things when they go off to college. Yeah. I didn't know how to do laundry. at all. My roommate had to teach me how to do, like the first week we were there, I panicked and realized I had no idea how to do laundry.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very small example, but I know what you're talking about. We had several students where I went to college because it was it was in rural Missouri. And so there were a lot of people that, first of all, had never been in a large environment, but then like you just said, they didn't understand how to do things on their own, and being asked to do simple tasks were just too overwhelming.
And that was 20 years ago, 20 years ago now.
Yes.
And I hear
it's showing my age. Thank you so much.
I'm the same age.
No.
But it's gotten worse. So I think you're on the right path of like, we have to normalize this behavior again, where kids could go places by themselves, where they know the life skills. Because I mean, I went places by myself. I remember walking the neighborhood with my friend, Angela, and we walked up to a grocery store, and Angela was not the best person to do this with, because there was a man who was a little like, I'm sure he was homeless at the time, but she antagonized him. Like she started something with him and he started yelling back, understandably. And I just remember my dad, he was coming to pick me up at the time, and he drove up and we had to like jump in the car and go away. But that didn't scare me. It's more, I saw it happen and I was like, oh, well, it happened and I'm fine. So I can handle this in the future. And
did it impact your dad?
Probably.
Did it make it more where he didn't want you to go out and do that stuff? Or
he didn't want me to hang around Angela.
That's probably the better choice, actually.
That's probably the better choice. No, my dad has always like encouraged independence in me, probably a little bit too much, because I'm like, I'm out of here when I was out of high school. But I think we do need to normalize that behavior for our kids.
Yeah.
This message is sponsored by Greenlight. It is so hard to raise kids who know how to manage money. Bree, right now, my kids are all about earning money for presents. My daughter wants to get presents for all of her friends, and my son is doing a Secret Santa with his friends.
Oh, I hear you. And if you're looking to raise kids that are financially responsible, we have got a lifesaver recommendation for you that you need to check out. It is Greenlight. Greenlight is a debit card and money app made for families that gives kids and teens an easy and fun way to gain financial literacy, all while giving parents peace of mind.
You can send instant money transfers, automate allowance, and even keep an eye on kids' spending with real-time notifications. Meanwhile, your kids can begin their journey towards financial autonomy by learning how to save, invest, and spend wisely.
So sign up for Greenlight today and get your first month free when you go to greenlight.com/NGM.
That's greenlight.com/NGM to try Greenlight for free. Greenlight.com/NGM. My son is playing a game right now on his computer where he's a thief and the cops are after him. So I'm so excited about this new app, Give As We Grow, where instead of being the quote unquote bad guys, kids are practicing giving back.
That is so cool, Joanne. I really wish that there was something like this when my kids were younger that got them excited about giving back to others and helped them build a better understanding of what it really means to volunteer.
Give As We Grow is the first of its kind free educational mobile app for children ages 8 to 11 that teaches kids via fun, service-focused minigame quests to tap into their unique talents and interests to help others.
And did you know that studies show that there is a biological connection between generosity and happiness, and that volunteering improves people's physical and mental health? I mean, kids who volunteer typically do better in school and are less likely to engage in risky behaviors. And that is something that I think we all want for our kids.
Ready to spark a new movement in generosity? Find and download Give As We Grow for free in the App Store for Android and iOS. And for resources for the whole family, visit giveaswegrow.org.
And in terms of chores, we get whining about chores in our household too.
I think every household, right?
Yeah, I don't like cleaning. I tell them that. I'm like, I don't like cleaning either. But you know who's going to do it? Everyone, because everybody lives in this household. One of the things I thought was super interesting was that there was some anthropological studies that looked at children in cultures that have a very strong emphasis on both self-reliance and interdependence. So it's not like, I got mine, screw you all. It was, we all need to work to take care of ourselves so we can all survive. You know, it was places like the Amazon in Peru and particularly indigenous tribes. And one of the things they found was that the parents would do the chore with the child until the child had both the skill and confidence to do it on their own. And by doing that, in our household at least, we're able to teach them chores that are like way beyond what they should be able to do by themselves. But by doing it now, they're learning it. Like I clean the bathroom with my 4-year-old. And we use like natural ingredients and stuff so he doesn't get sick. But, he knows how to scrub a toilet. I'm not going to let him do it by himself.
Yeah.
But, he knows how to. And then even if he's going to complain about it as a teenager, it's that sense of we're all in it together. We all take care of each other, and we all take care of each other by taking care of our own stuff too.
I love that, because you're teaching that. You're also just teaching your children that you believe in them.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you believe that they have that ability to do it. And it's amazing when you show your children that you do have faith in them and you have faith in their skills, and and when you tell them, one thing I'm hearing over and over from you, like we have our No Gut Mom mindset, and I'm hearing you talk a lot about your kids will learn from their mistakes.
Yep.
Everyone in this family contributes. You're showing them that you believe in them and that they have that ability to do these things. And I think that is so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a powerful mindset. It's such a gift we can give to our children.
Mm-hmm.
And the interdependence alone, like it helps with mental health.
Yeah.
It makes kids know that they have people that they can rely on, family that they can rely on. And even outside the family, it takes away that fear about letting kids do things on their own, because we've so been drilled into this culture of stranger danger. Like I think our generation really bad stranger danger. And that affects our parenting right now, even though when you go out in the world and you're actually there interacting, everybody's really great. They're really great.
You do have your times in your place. Like you just showed us like a little bit. There's a small portion.
Oh, it's so minuscule though.
It's so minuscule. And it's so easy to spot too. Like,
well, nowadays, because it's so easily accessible. You hear about every little thing everywhere. I can't even tell you when I'm on Facebook, the local community groups that you have, like how many posts you see a day about, I saw a suspicious car, or this happened to my best friend's sister's neighbor.
But a lot of those are so overblown.
I know.
Like it's so overblown.
But it gets that fear going.
Yeah.
So that's something actually I talk to my kids a lot about too, is risk assessment, is understanding, okay, there's things that seem really scary, but their chances of happening are so small that we need to be more concerned about the things that maybe they're not as catastrophic, but they're more likely to happen. And so I have a chapter on outdoors volunteerism and being outdoors and being connected to community through things like beach cleanups and stream cleanups and planting trees and all that sort of stuff. And one thing that being outdoors helps kids learn is risk assessment, specifically of, if I climb across this log, am I going to fall? How high of a tree could I climb? How sure-footed am I? And it helps kids learn understand their own bodies better and what the risks of those things are. Again, develop independence and confidence in being out there and being able to see what's a big risk, what's a small risk. And we kind of talk them through, well, okay, this is why this is a big risk, or this is why this is a small risk. And then, so this is not really, it's just a good story.
We like good stories.
My son now can forever say that he has potentially saved his mother's life.
Oh, wow.
We were hiking last weekend and talking about big and small risks. And this is why it's a little odd, but we're hiking last weekend and just in like the local county park, and it's down this narrow trail, and he goes, "What is that?" And I go, "What?" "Oh, it looks like an interesting rock formation." He's like, No, what is that?" I look and I go, let's back up. It was a copperhead snake.
Oh gosh.
In the middle of the trail.
Oh
right?
my God.
Which, like, thank God he saw it, because it was a big honking snake, but it was also, kind of the same color as the trail. And my kids have a tendency to run down the trail. But now he knows that, one, yes, we did face a big risk that is pretty rare, but we were able to handle it and we did not get hurt. And just because you see these things does not mean death. We were able to handle them, and we had a great day the rest of the day. It wasn't like we abandoned ship and went home. We went and explored a whole bunch of other trails. And going outside and that level of unpredictability involved with it, like adapting to the weather, things like that. Mm-hmm. are really valuable life lessons for kids because, again, they learn how to problem solve, how to think flexibly. Thinking flexibly is a really big struggle for him. And I think that helped him a lot. Being outside and solving those problems has helped him a lot in that area.
I can totally see how it would reduce anxiety too about the world and about like that catastrophic thinking about things happening. Because when you go out and you experience it and you can handle it, you get that confidence that everything's okay and I can do this.
Right.
I love that.
Because it kind of comes back to that whole thought process of like, we find our role as parents to protect and to protect and teach our children. And we can only protect them so much. We know that the world's going to have rough and there's going to be a time we want them to eventually be able to leave from us and have that skill set. Like you're saying, the flexible thinking, the problem solving skills. But sometimes our protection, it stunts that.
It does. It does stunt that. What is something that like people can do, what parents can do right now that will get them on the road to doing more outdoor stuff and building these skills in their kids?
Yeah, just getting out there and appreciating nature. You don't have to go to a national park. You don't have to go camping if you don't want to. You can just, even if you go on a walk or around your backyard, for goodness sake, let them dig in the dirt and not worry about getting messy. Have them go up to a tree and get their nose close to it and look really closely at the bark and, oh, there's an insect, but that's cool, isn't it? So just encourage that lack of fear that children naturally have towards nature, because I think so often, so much when kids are afraid of nature or they're nervous about it, it's because we've taught them to be. And there's some kids who are naturally nervous, but nature is actually been shown to have positive effects on anxiety, on calming everybody, not just children. And so it's really great for adults.
I feel it.
Mental health too.
Oh my gosh. When I go out in the woods with no cell signal, that like all the stress goes. And I'm like, whoa, I need this more often.
Our family goes once a year on a trip to like a cabin up north here in Arizona where it's a little bit cooler. And we always have trouble with the cell signals, but you know what? Everybody loves it.
It's great.
It's so peaceful and nobody cares. Like my kids will be on their phones when they're here, but then once we get out there, nope, except to take pictures.
You don't feel like you need to be busy. You don't need to be productive. You don't have to worry about responding to people. Yeah, there's
actually some research that shows that nature helps you feel like you're away in a way that nowhere inside really does. It helps focus attention and restore attention, especially in kids and probably adults who struggle with that, like who have ADHD and other attention deficit or other executive function disorders. So it's really restorative and calming in terms of your emotional stability.
Well, there's also this study that like just looking outside reduces your stress levels, which I find interesting. Yeah. If like they had people work in an office and some had like a window and some didn't. And the people who
that's true.
Stare out the window, they're much calmer. And
that's 100% true. Like I can think about it from my last work environment. Like I had one that had absolutely no windows and it drove me bonkers. And then where I was at my last job, when you were stressed, I would just take a moment, get up, look outside, and it did make me feel a lot better.
Yeah. I've been taking my computer out to my deck and sitting on my deck, even though it's hot as hell. It still helps.
I know. Right?
I get that. I have a back porch. I do the same. And I'm like so hot and so sweaty. And my kids come out and they're like, it's so hot out here. I'm going back inside. I'm like, okay, that works. That's good.
Yeah. We do have some of that in our house too.
Yeah, they do. Going to like this mom guilt area. I was looking through your blog, which is amazing.
Thank you.
Make sure I don't massacre this title. We'll eat you up. We love you so.
Yes. It's named after the Lion and Where the Wild Things Are.
That's
okay.
That's awesome. You write this post about blame and this thought process that you had that if you could just blame someone for a problem, they would learn their lesson and not do it again. And how you kind of conquered that. Can you talk a little bit about like what your thought process was that changed that line of thinking for you?
Yeah, well, I talked about this in the post, but obviously people won't have read it. I watched a really great Brene Brown video where she talks about blame and like all great things Brene Brown. She talks about it in her own context and how she has been guilty of this. And she tells a story about how she dropped a cup of coffee that shattered and splattered all over her white pants one morning. And then somehow within 0.5 seconds figured out a way to blame her husband for it. And then she realized this is terrible and that doesn't make any sense and that didn't solve the problem. And so instead of just pointing the finger and shaking it at somebody, again, it comes back to problem solving and to jointly taking responsibility and saying, okay, in some cases, yes, it was someone's fault, and we will help you take responsibility. We're going to give you the skills so you can learn how to take responsibility. Maybe you made this giant mess and you're staring at it now and you don't know where to start. Okay, I'll help you and I'll help guide you through it. Or maybe we don't know who caused this problem, and instead we're all just going to work together and, jointly take responsibility. And okay, maybe we do know who did it and they won't admit to it, but we're going to jointly work together and take this responsibility.
I feel like that circles back a lot to environmental issues as well, because there's so much of us that either we want to blame other people for the issues happening in the environment, and we take ourselves out of it and we don't see the impact that we as individuals can have.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yeah, it's really tough with the environmental issues like climate change in particular, because on one hand, everybody is involved in it. And on the other hand, well, maybe three hands. On the other hand, there are these systems that we talked about that make it harder for people. And if we change the systems and if we value things as a society in terms of sustainability, it would be a lot easier. And then there also are some people who are disproportionately, more responsible than others. But honestly, we can change our own behavior. We can try to change our systems. For people who are in like massive amounts of power, say like celebrities or politicians, we can harass them into changing their behavior.
Like not taking a 747 everywhere.
Right. But just saying, it's their fault, and then being like, well, I can't do anything then.
Yeah, like power away.
Not helpful. And it's very disempowering.
Yeah, it's the same mindset that's frustrating to us. Mm-hmm. Like when we see other people act like they're not making changes, well, we're not doing our part either.
Right. And like I said, it's very disempowering even. Like, well, I can't do anything about it then. Yeah. It's like, no. There's things everybody can do. And different people are going to have different capabilities to do different things. There's some people who, there was a really big controversy in the environmental world a while back about banning plastic straws, because there are, and one of the complaints about it was that the people are like, oh, let's just ban them. Nobody needs them. It's fine. And a lot of people who are disabled were like, actually, I need a plastic straw. I need to be able to have this to be able to drink things when I'm not at home ever. And it's really hard to clean them, which I've tried to clean the reusable ones. They're really hard. I just prefer to go without.
I have a little brush. I have a metal one.
I keep losing mine. Or it's like so dried in. I'm like, eh. But I think the thing is, it's just, you have to do what you are most capable of, and hopefully what you're most passionate about and what your family enjoys doing. And that's going to be different for everybody. Everybody's going to have different needs, going to have different life skills, going to have different responsibilities. And if you can find where you fit in that sort of broader context and how you can contribute uniquely, or how you can contribute in a way you really enjoy, that it's not a chore, it's not a hassle, or maybe it's a little extra work, but it's something that you still appreciate, then that's going to be really powerful for both you and your family.
So what I'm hearing is that you really need to kind of search for your passion about where you are passionate about. You don't have to do everything, because I feel like this need to do everything. I think I feel it too, especially where in the issues of climate change and recycling, producing so much waste, having so much stuff. Like I see all of it kind of coming on at me all at once. And then it just creates this inaction because you get so overwhelmed
and so much guilt of like, if I can't do it all, then I'm not doing enough.
And I can't do enough. Yeah. So what's the point of doing anything? That's the thought process.
And that was actually what led, so speaking of mom guilt, that was exactly what led to me writing the book. Was I was continuously struggling with both mom guilt. I'm at work too much and I can never take a break, and I still don't have enough time with my kids, and I'm not doing the right things when I'm doing them, and everybody knows that horrible line of thinking. And then
we all have it.
Guilt,
even though you're telling us all these amazing things you are doing with your kids on a regular basis, to know that you still experience it too. Wow, that's great.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And this green guilt of, I'm telling other people how to be green and I'm not green enough. And I produce, you see these like were like, I produce a mason jar of garbage.
Oh
a
my
year."
gosh,
And I'm
I've seen that. I'm like,
"That's not
how
me."
is that possible?
No, don't get discouraged by them. We don't all have to be them.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I think that
and,
they get a joy out of that not
do.
everybody else gets. So
Yes, that is,
fuels them.
and that's their thing, and good
That's their
for
thing.
them. Fabulous. But I was sitting on a beanbag chair in my basement, which is finished, and reading a different parenting book, the wonderful "There's No Such Thing as Bad Weather," which is by a fellow blogger. It's about getting outside and the benefits of getting outside with your kids and the Swedish lifestyle, because she's Swedish. And I just kind of had like one of those cartoon light bulb moments where I was like, wait a minute, the mom guilt and the green guilt, like they are not, these are two things that I can both make not go away. They're never going to go away, but I can resolve them somewhat. This feeling of I'm taking time away from my kids to do these things, except for the fact that these things are things that are good time spent with my kids. These are things that are valuable for my kids. These are the things that are teaching my kids the values I want to teach them and the skills I want to teach them. And that's where the book came from, was understanding that there was no conflict between being a good mom and a green mom, that they can be one and the same, and that there's so much value when you look at the intersection of them. And especially when you look at the intersection of how does environmental issues, how can you use those to reflect on your larger place in the world?
So tell everybody where they can find your book.
Pretty much anywhere you can buy books. It's on the Penguin Random House website, even though it's published through North Atlantic Books, but Penguin Random House is the distributor. So if you search Growing Sustainable Together, it'll come up. I'm not going to make a promo for anybody, but bookshop.com does benefit your local bookstore. So your local independent bookstore. So that's always a really good option, I think. IndieBound also, that's also benefits independent bookstores.
That is awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on.
You.
We learned about green living and how we can do it very, very doably. I want to say doably. That's not a word.
I already have thoughts in my head about things I'm going to be doing differently.
That's always wonderful.
Feeling empowered.
Yes.
Yay.
I feel like this was very empowering. So thank you so much. And we'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
I loved talking with Shannon.
Oh, I know. You know what? I was just, I want her to join our mom crew.
Yeah, you said that right after we got off the interview with her.
She's the kind of gal I would love to sit down and have a happy hour with. Just the conversations that would come up would be so, so rich. I love that.
What I really loved is she has so many great ideas for how to teach kids to live like more environmentally friendly, but she's also very real about it.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, no, like these are great things to start in your home, but also no, it's not perfect at all.
And that you don't have to do everything. You had a really great question you asked her there at the end. Was like, well, let's talk about the mom guilt that people feel about, not being green enough.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, I get that. Because I get mom guilt too. But you know what? Being green and being a good mom, or having mom guilt and green guilt, there's no difference. They're all the same.
Yeah.
So like, it's okay. You're good no matter what degree of green you're doing. Everyone has that guilt. Even people that are achieving way higher on their goals of being more green than some of us.
Well, one thing like we mentioned in this interview was all the trash in the jar. Have you ever heard about these families?
No, but my eyes like about popped out of my head when you guys were talking about it. Mason jar worth?
Yeah, they have a mason jar's worth of waste a year. I'm
happy when I get down to 2 trash bags a week.
No, yeah. And like here you are, you're hearing that, and then you're unwrapping your big like haul from Costco. And I would say the wrapping alone is enough to fill the garbage can. Or like you get takeout and that's enough to fill the garbage can. And you think about mason jar, like my takeout container wouldn't even fit in a mason jar.
No. So yeah, I don't even.
But when you compare yourself to that kind of ideal, yeah, of course we're stuck and we won't like try anything new to be more sustainable because we're measuring ourselves against this level of perfection that most people don't need to attain.
Right. And it's just like you just said, not only that we can't necessarily attain it or that we don't need to, but it just makes it seem insurmountable.
Yes.
If I can barely make it like 1 inch up that mountain, then why am I even going to try? And Shannon had a really great, like, just try. It's fun. It's fun. Find your passion, find what you are passionate about, and just go with that.
Yeah.
Like find that piece, and that's what you roll with.
I like the whole teaching kids to learn transportation and public transportation, even though, the fear is big. It is big.
It's real.
Partly because I haven't ridden on a city bus for Gosh, I can't even remember the last time I rode on a city bus here in town.
But in all fairness, not every city has the same public transportation as others.
That is
so
true.
Some cities, it's a little bit more difficult than others.
Yes.
But that shouldn't keep you from doing it, though. Like, I have had a goal. Like, the light rail came into our city a few years ago, and I've been wanting to get on it. I've never actually ridden the light rail.
You ever ridden the light rail?
No.
Okay, that is something that is fun. That's totally fun. And it's actually very safe. So I guess this really plays into you need to experience it to not have the fear. I think that's a good life lesson for everything.
Yeah.
When I ride the light rail, I see that the light rail security, they are walking through that car. Every trip I see security, every single trip. And the cars are always very clean. And it's just, when you do it, you know it and you don't fear it.
Right. I think one thing that she was talking about that the fear definitely came in was she was talking about her kids being able to, not that her kids do, because her kids are very little, but that she envisions that they're going to be able to do public transportation and things like that on their own once they get a little bit older, because they've done it their whole lives, which I think is, again, it's a mind shift from not only where I was brought up, but from the day-to-day life that I live with my children. And then again, when we talked about that, how, oh gosh, that's kind of crazy. Because I do agree with, I think it's important for my children to know transportation and know where they're at and be able to understand where they are in their community. It's obtainable though. It's something that we can try. And if it's important to you that your children realize that, like, what is that extra 30 minutes? It's time spent with your family. Telling a joke.
It is.
Playing a game.
I have to say, it makes my heart beat just a little bit faster thinking that I have to spend an extra 30 minutes on something when I could be getting something else done. But I think that's just the mindset I operate on. And it's the need to do everything and all the things and be in control of everything, which isn't the most healthy. I totally admit that.
Well, I think it's also important to be able to see and I think you do see this a lot. At the moment right now, you're not, but seeing the value in just that time with your kids.
Yes.
Whether or not it's spent watching a TV show on the couch or taking a ride on the local transportation, like, it's still that time you're getting.
That is true. I find like the best time I've had with my kids this whole year was when we were traveling and we were in Germany and we were riding all the public transportation there. And it took us a long time to get around, but that was a part of the adventure.
Yeah.
Like riding the subways and the U-Bahns and like that's part of it.
I will say, like, we've gone around in this so again, during the whole COVID environment where we couldn't really go anywhere, you'd hop in the car sometimes and just drive around. And yeah, my kids really enjoyed getting to see parts of town that they had never seen before because we just never either had a reason to drive over that way or the time. I was always like, well, we don't have time to go. Where are you going to go now, man? We got lots of time.
Yeah,
so
all the time in the world.
It's really fun, the things that they can explore and find and the things that you had no idea existed.
Yeah. So hopefully this conversation, I know it gave me a bit of hope of other areas I can explore with my kids.
Oh, it gave me all kinds of I've got some really great ideas of things I want to start doing with my kids here in the next year of just because with me, I have to start small and work my way up.
I think that's a good plan of action for everybody.
Yes.
The big plans always go and they dive bomb.
I know. Little steps. We'll do this and then we'll do that. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So I hope that you all enjoyed our conversation with Shannon Brescher Shea. Make sure to go pick up her book. We will put a link in the show notes. And while you are there in the show notes, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We would so love to be able to talk to you every single week. And if you have a few minutes, if you could rate and review the podcast, that makes a difference in getting it out to more people and getting this message of being a no-guilt mom really to be kind of like the main thought process for moms. Wouldn't that be wonderful? No guilt for every mom.
Every mom, like you say no guilt and every mom knows like our 6 mindset.
Yeah.
Like, yes.
Yes.
The freedom.
So we hope to hear from you soon. If you have any feedback for our show, email us. Email us at hello@noguiltmom.com. We'd love to hear suggestions for guests or anything that you like in the podcast or anything that you want to see changed in the podcast. And with that, remember that the best mom's a happy mom. Take care of you. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Are you looking for something to listen to with your whole family? Then check out 6 Minutes, produced and created by Gen Z Media. With over 200 twisty, cliffhanger-filled episodes, 6 Minutes tells the story of 11-year-old Holiday who was pulled from the icy waters with no memory of who she is or where she came from.
3 years ago, Brinley Pasternak helped the Anders family uncover the truth about Holiday's past. Now she'll need them to help her find the truth about hers. In 6 Minutes Out of Time, the long-awaited sequel, Cyrus Anders is found unconscious near the mysterious Elixir Academy in Florida, and Brinley learns the school may have a shocking connection to her missing mother.
Dive in now and get the most downloaded family audio adventure in history. Follow 6 Minutes wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen early and ad-free with the GZM family subscription.